Right. So I think everyone, Lama, do you know Satish? Have you met
Yes,
before?
he is. Yes, we've spoken, and he's been in Gainesville, KTC, and I just found out that he lives closer to you. So he's visited you as well, and that's great. So yes, I know Satish.
I'm blessed to have more than one place I can go to.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah, so we have all the wonderful suspects on tonight with us online, Jackie and Sari, Michael and myself and Jen here at the center. So we're very happy to have you tonight, and we can go ahead and begin tonight's Buddhism Basics discussion. Thank you for being here.
All right, you're very welcome. So you want to ask any particular questions before we begin? Is there anything pressing on your minds?
Well, I think there's one in the chat.
Yeah.
If you want to unmute, you can go ahead and.
So I thought of I'm just going to read what I typed.
Okay.
Question. I was wondering if you could explain the Buddha families, and specifically, I'm going to try to pronounce this correctly, Akshobhya Buddha.
Yeah.
I learned that he's in the same Buddha family as Medicine Buddha, but I'd like to know more about the Buddha families and what they're known for.
Okay, we can start with that one, and then see if there's anything else. I think there was some question about the Sutra and Tantra as well, so we can talk about those things as well. So to begin, the concept of the 5 Buddha families is a prominent feature in Vajrayana, in Tibetan Buddhism, particularly in the context of tantric practices. And these 5 Buddha families are associated with specific qualities, emotions, wisdoms, spiritual transformation. And each Buddha family is linked to a particular Buddha figure, as you were mentioning, such as Akshobhya. But they have their own specific or unique characteristics, each of the 5 Buddha families. So we can start with Vairocana Buddha, the family of great bliss. And Vairocana embodies the wisdom of all-encompassing space and is associated with the purification of ignorance. The family of Vairocana is associated with the wisdom of all-encompassing space and the transformation of ignorance into the wisdom of the Dharmadhatu. And now you mentioned Akshobhya Buddha family of the Vajra family. Akshobhya embodies the wisdom of mirror-like wisdom, it is called. And is associated with the purification of anger and aggression. The family of Akshobhya is associated with the transformation of anger into the wisdom of mirror-like wisdom. And Karmapa did a big teaching on Akshobhya and empowerments for Akshobhya. He thought that was certainly appropriate for our time to quell or transmute our anger and aggression, and that is Akshobhya. Ratnasambhava is a Buddha family or jewel family. Ratna means jewel, and embodies the wisdom of equanimity and is associated with purification of pride and miserliness. The family of Ratnasambhava is associated with the transformation of pride and miserliness into the wisdom of equanimity. And Amitabha Buddha, family of the lotus. Amitabha embodies the wisdom of discernment and is associated with the purification of desire and attachment. The family of Amitabha is also associated with the transformation of desire and attachment into the wisdom of discernment. And lastly, Amoghasiddhi Buddha family, the family of action. And Amoghasiddhi embodies the wisdom of accomplishing action and is associated with the purification of jealousy and envy. The family of Amoghasiddhi is also associated with the transformation of jealousy and envy into the wisdom of all-encompassing action. So you can read a lot about these. There's certainly much more we can say about them, but those are the five wisdom deities as Buddhas. Each of these Buddha families represents different aspects of the enlightened mind. And the transformation of negative qualities into wisdom, right? So in Vajrayana Buddhism, practitioners often engage in practices related to the five Buddha families as a means of purification and transforming their own emotions and perceptions, ultimately leading to enlightenment. So those are the five Buddha families and their associations, at least briefly. And so maybe any question about that? I mean, again, that's a huge topic that can really be explored, each of these families and each of these associated Buddhas. But those are the five Buddhas and their families.
We have one question here.
Yeah.
Lama Losang, what are the five negative things that the Buddha families each transform?
Yeah.
Are they the same as the five poisons?
They are.
Okay, I just want to
They are.
memorize the five poisons. You've memorized the.
Yes. How do we transmute them into wisdom? That's right. And that is the essence of the Vajrayana, is transforming those negative things and seeing the other side of the coin, the wisdom behind it, so that we just don't try to ignore the emotion or the kleshas, but we transform them into the corresponding wisdom. So you also mentioned the divine abodes.
Yes. We had just went through and it was just a very short mention of it was like a page on the four divine abode, the Brahma Viharas.
Yeah, they're known as the four divine abodes, or the Brahma Viharas, as you say, or the Four Immeasurables.
Four Immeasurables, yeah.
They're known by all those names, and they're a set of virtues, as you read, and meditative practices that are intended to cultivate positive mental states and attributes. And these qualities are considered to be conducive to the development of wholesome emotional states and the cultivation of compassion, loving kindness, empathetic joy, and equanimity. Those are the four. But to just expand that a little bit more, the four abodes, or the four immeasurables, are loving kindness. In the Pali, it's metta. You may see it as metta, and that means loving kindness. And metta is the practice of cultivating benevolence and kindness and goodwill towards oneself and others. And practitioners of metta meditation extend thoughts and wishes of well-being and happiness to all beings without discrimination. And the second is usually karuna, or compassion. Karuna involves the development of compassion and empathy towards those who are suffering. And practitioners of karuna, or meditation, aspire to alleviate the suffering of others and to develop the deep sense of caring for all beings. So we consider compassion a very important virtue to cultivate. And the third is mudita, or sympathetic joy. And mudita, or sympathetic joy, refers to the practice of finding joy in the happiness and success of others. And practitioners of sympathetic joy meditation cultivate empathetic joy by rejoicing in the good fortune and accomplishment of others, rather than feeling envy, or jealousy. And it is said that, we get a tremendous benefit and merit by not transmuting that jealousy and really feeling the joy of the well-being and good fortune of others. So that is sympathetic joy. And equanimity, sometimes it's seen as the first one. This is the fourth, often the way it's listed, but we have to have equanimity, for all beings. So upekkha, or equanimity, is the cultivation of equanimity, balance, impartiality in response to the ups and downs of life. And practitioners of this meditation seek to develop a serene and balanced mind, free from attachment and aversion in the face of life's inevitable changes. And these four divine abodes are considered essential qualities to be cultivated on the path to liberation, and are central to development of wholesome states of mind. But this is immeasurable, these immeasurable qualities. This is the practice of the Bodhisattva as well. Akash, these are known in the Vajrayana and in the Mahayana alike. These four divine abodes are considered essential qualities to be cultivated and are central to development, again, of wholesome states of mind in Buddhist practice. And they are emphasized in various Buddhist traditions and are considered integral to the cultivation of wisdom and compassion, which are the two wings of the bird that take us to our desired goal of liberation, freedom, wisdom and compassion. Any question about that? That's pretty straightforward, I think. And you'll come across the Four Immeasurables. I mean, we say them all the time in our prayers. But again, they are the cultivation of compassion, loving kindness, empathetic joy, and equanimity.
Lama, one of the things that Trali Rinpoche talks about when he's describing the Four Immeasurables is this idea of practicing loving kindness. And, at first when we start practicing this, to not practice with people that are either too difficult, that are causing us issues, and also not to practice with a person of the opposite sex. But when he's talking about practice, it sounds a little bit like Tonglen, but at the same time, when we talk about the practice of loving kindness, it doesn't always seem to be such a formalized practice per se, unless you're specifically doing something like Tonglen meditation.
Well, we just mentioned in terms of the Four Immeasurables, or what we mentioned, equanimity. So we should have that same quality for all beings, So I'm not sure what context he would say that in. I'm a little surprised to hear it. And in the Bodhisattva tradition, or in the Vajrayana, we would never discriminate between gender or race or anything like that.
I think it's sitting at the very beginning of your starting to practice loving kindness.
Well, you have to start where you are and what your capacity is. So thinking of your hated enemy may not be the best way to start, but hopefully you can start where you are and then gradually expand that. But ultimately, when we're talking about these four immeasurables, they are immeasurable love. There's no one left behind. It is for everyone. So yeah, in the beginning, it is not so easy to include everybody in that. So we have to be realistic. But as we continue along the path, we need to bring those people who we may have some karma with, or some dislike for because of some karmic thing that we perceive them to have done. But that is really binding us to them in a very negative way. And we need to release that. And through forgiveness and other kinds of practices, such as we're talking about, we let go of that. It's a hindrance. It's definitely hindrance to perpetuate that. So to hold them in front of us, sometimes when we do Tonglen, for example, we imagine the person who we're doing the loving kindness or compassion or equanimity or these kinds of things, and a seat in front of us, and we see them, and we wish to give them, all the blessings, all the merit, all the goodness. When we breathe out and we take in all of their suffering and worry and fear and ignorance, as a kind of a dark smoke, we inhale it, transmute it, and send it back out as loving kindness and compassion, and healing them in the deepest of ways, whatever they need. So it can be like a Tonglen practice, you're right.
And Satish had a question. He asks, how does one develop these qualities so they become your baseline state?
Through practice. First we have to become aware of them. And this is the practice of, in the Mahayana, the Bodhisattva vehicle of loving kindness and compassion. And so Tonglen, as you mentioned, is one of the best ways to do it. We can do it for ourselves. We can see ourselves on that seat in front of us and wish that individual, which is us, happiness and take away all those things that create suffering and misunderstanding and pain and suffering. On the inhale, and we exhale out all virtue, merit, healing, and wisdom as kind of a brilliant white light, and this kind of smoky negative kleshas and wrongdoing and anger and fear and jealousy, all those things, we take it in because we don't want them to hold on to that and suffer as a result. And then we transmute it in our heart and send it back out as loving kindness and compassion as a brilliant white light. So that is the ongoing practice. And we can do that. Sometimes it's easier to do it with ourselves first because we all want to be happy. No one wants to suffer. So we can do that for ourselves when we get into a state of confusion and anger or whatever our klesha might be. And we can transmute it like that. And then we can put, someone else, a family member, someone we're close to, who also we have loving kindness for. Anyway, we want them to be happy. We're close to them, family members. And then someone who may be more neutral, the person you see at the grocery store, or at the bank, or at the post office, or whatever the thing is that we may not have a relationship with, but they want the same thing. They want to be happy too, and they don't want to suffer. So we extend it out in that way. And then we can continue to extend that out to those who we do have some karma with, that have upset us and that we have some grudge or negative feeling toward, to really end that and uproot that in ourselves. And we do that by wishing them kindness and in just the way I mentioned, doing that, sending out, really seeing them fulfilled and the Buddhas that they are. We all have Buddha nature. And so we don't sometimes see that. We just see the negative, but they do have the Buddha nature, and we want to bring that out. We want to remove anything that prevents them from being that Buddha that they are and prevents them from seeing those positive qualities. So that's how Tonglen works. So when you ask the question, how do we do it? We do it like that. Until, and to a point, I usually say we fake it until we make it. And so it does bring us to the point of loving kindness and compassion. Did that answer your question, Satish? Yeah. Okay. So the other question, I believe, was about Sutra and Tantra. So we'll talk about the medicine Buddha, which was found in the sutras, but also in the Tantras, in the Vajrayana Buddhism. It originated in the sutras. But, in Buddhism, both Sutra and Tantra are important types of texts and teachings, but they represent different aspects of the tradition. So Sutra refers to the discourses of the historical Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, or Siddhartha Gautama. And these discourses contain the fundamental teachings of Buddhism, including the Four Noble Truths, the Noble Eightfold Path, the various other aspects of Buddhism, philosophy, ethics, and practice. Sutras are considered the foundational teachings of Buddhism and are widely studied and revered by all Buddhists across different traditions. These are the teachings of the Buddha that we call sutra. The Tantras, on the other hand, refer to a distinct set of Buddhist scriptures and practices that emerged later in the development of Buddhism. And tantric practices emphasize the use of rituals, visualizations. These are where our yidam practices come in, or medicine Buddha. It can be done with meditation techniques and mantras to achieve enlightenment in a more accelerated manner. Tantra is often associated, with the esoteric or Vajrayana Buddhism, which is prevalent in Tibetan Buddhism. So, though elements of Tantra can also be found in other Buddhist traditions, it is certainly true for Tibetan Buddhism. And while both Sutra and Tantra contain teachings aimed at achieving enlightenment, they both have the same goal. They differ in their approach and the methods that they employ. So Sutra teachings are often more accessible and widely practiced, while Tantric teachings are considered more esoteric, just like Tantra or, the Vajrayana, and are typically translated through a teacher-student relationship in a more in a relationship way, where the Lama or the teacher is really plays an important role. And we talk about empowerments and the hearing and the getting the instruction for these practices. So that's in a nutshell what I would say about Sutra and Tantra. Once again, these are vast teachings that the Buddha taught. I hope that was helpful. So we'll talk a little bit about the Medicine Buddha teachings. But again, anything else? Any other questions about what I was just saying? So I think that Trungpa Rinpoche did talk about the 7 Tathagatas, the 7 medicine Buddhas as well, this medicine Buddha brothers.
He did, Lama. I believe what's been more interesting with the new, I think the new medicine Buddha texts, there's the one section
that's right. They're added.
Somewhat newer to us that goes through the 7 medicine Buddha brothers. So
in the Tibetan Kanjur, which is sutra, this is the teachings of the Buddha. There are 2 sutras of the medicine Buddha, one long and one short. The long one teaches about the pure realms, aspirations, and so forth of the medicine Buddha, as well as those of the other 7 Tathagatas. And they are all named in that sutra, well-renowned name, majestic, melodious sound, and so forth. However, the sutra we will recite, what you usually recite is the shorter one. But now, as you say, we've added those other 7 Buddhas, which is wonderful. So, which also teaches the aspirations and the pure realm of medicine Buddha. And so this came from, I'm sure that there was some history that you just read in the 8th century Tibet, during the reign of Dharma King Trisam Detsen. Shantarakshita composed 3 sutra rituals of the medicine Buddha, one long, one medium, and one short. And later, when Atisha came to Tibet, it is said that he wrote the praises, the flower of your name, include one stanza for each of the 7 Tathagatas, each of the 7 Buddha brothers, and the well-known one stanza of the medicine Buddha, Bhagavan, you are equally compassionate to all. And the Kadampa masters held the sutra rituals of the medicine Buddha in high esteem. And because of this, Tibetan philosophical colleges always recited the sutra ritual of medicine Buddha, even though reciting too many pujas could create an obstacle to study. They always did medicine Buddha. So as a sutra practice, just like Green Tara and just like Chenrezig, these are sutra practices. And although it's not necessary to have empowerment, it's always suggested that you do have the empowerment for these. And the reading transmission, the lung, which is the reading transmission, and the direction on how to practice it, instruction. So those are the 3 things that are necessary. Particularly in the Tantra, or in the Vajrayana, we have the empowerment done by the Lama, and the reading transmission, or the lung, and we have the necessary instructions for practice. So, particularly, when we were going through the coronavirus pandemic was raging across the globe, we experienced difficulties with physical health, and there is also mental hardship and feeling, deprived of joy, and there was so much suffering that went with that. So when the body's unhealthy, the mind cannot be happy. There's no way for the mind to be happy. But being healthy physically does not necessarily mean that you will feel happy mentally. Thus, the mental happiness is more valuable, I think, than the physical health. And through the vast aspirations of the medicine Buddha that he made in the past, through his indomitable courage and boundless compassion, it is very important for us to inspire ourselves and train in relieving all our own and others' physical and mental illnesses, and in strengthening our love for one another and our benevolent wishes. So this all goes hand in hand with the things we were talking about, the Four Immeasurables, or the yes. Normally, we only remember to recite medicine Buddha sutra and mantra when we get a little sick, or pay a little attention. We pay little attention otherwise. But this medicine Buddha sutra is not a text about medicine or treatment. It really tells, when you read it, the manifold vast aspirations or commitments that the Buddha made for the sake of other sentient beings. And it is important to see whether those can have an effect on our minds, and whether they can encourage us to practice virtue. The Karmapa gave teachings on medicine Buddha at Kagyu Manlam in India. And the most important factor in our practice, he said, was bodhicitta. It doesn't matter what practice we're doing. Oops, excuse me. doesn't matter what you're practicing, the most important ingredient in that is bodhicitta, and one can only attain enlightenment through bodhicitta, having that right understanding and cultivating a loving kindness and compassion for the benefit of all beings, and doing the practice for the benefit of all beings. Whether our practice is the Mahayana Dharma or not is determined by bodhicitta. So a person can call themselves a Mahayana practitioner or a Vajrayana practitioner, but at least if they don't have bodhicitta, they are not. They're a Hinayana or a lesser vehicle. It is the cultivation of bodhicitta and the aspiration to be a benefit to others. You know, taking the bodhisattva vow, just like the entry into the Hinayana is really the refuge vow, which is the first coming on the path, and the coming on the path of the Mahayana is the bodhisattva vow. So all dharma is connected with bodhicitta. There is nothing that is not. And he said, you know, during his teaching, a prayer that you're probably familiar with, you know, may this precious supreme bodhicitta arise in those who have not developed it, nor weaken in those who have aroused it, and increase further and further. So that is really the view that we should have. So, you know, the Buddha Shakyamuni taught this Medicine Buddha Sutra in Vaishali to a gathering, it is said in the sutra, to 80,000 monks and 36,000 bodhisattvas, including Chenrezig and Vajrapani and Manjushri, as well as devas and humans and non-humans alike. They were all gathered there for this teaching. And the Bhagavan Buddha's teachings are said to be good in the beginning, good in the middle, and good in the end. And it was Manjushri who stood up in this assembly and requested Shakyamuni Buddha to teach the Medicine Buddha Sutra to practice. So to those beings with inner and outer sufferings and who live in the midst of degenerate times, which we do, we're still in degenerate times. So Manjushri asked for this teaching on Medicine Buddha. And the Karmapa went on to discuss this Tibetan Buddhist history from the time of the first king, when Bone tradition existed in Tibet, and went on to give he's quite a historian, and how Buddhism came to Tibet from India, and the time of the great Dharma king, Songtsen Gampo, and the preeminent translator, and the formulated, this was Tomi Sambota, who formulated the Tibetan written language and began to translate scriptures into Tibetan for the first time. So there was a lot that he had to say about the Medicine Buddha practice. But generally, such practices as Medicine Buddha belong to the Kriya Yoga class of Tantra, but some Kriya Yoga practices are related to the highest Yoga Tantra, and we were talking about the Anatura Tantra. That is, was mentioned, I think, the highest Yoga Tantra. So we find it there as well. So for this reason, empowerment and transmission are needed in order to practice it, as I mentioned. So there is tremendous benefit to practice Medicine Buddha. It is said that faith and trust in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha are the seed for enlightenment and liberation. So we said that taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha is the first coming on the path, and is certainly necessary, as he said, to have faith and trust in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the noble Sangha, being the seed of enlightenment or liberation. But we must be careful about blind faith, he said, and the faith that just prays for and expects desired results without having the proper cause. If we're just looking for benefits for ourselves. Again, that is not Mahayana. If we're just looking for our own liberation or relief from suffering and attaining a nirvana, that is a lower aspiration. I mean, we can do that. We can improve the quality of our life, but that is not the highest level of realization. And so we have to really cultivate this bodhicitta. And, sometimes it is said that, people ask, what can they do for a dying person, even a dying animal? And it is said that anyone who even hears the name of the medicine Buddha will be freed from sufferings of the lower realms. And the name of the medicine Buddha is so powerful that it has the capacity to dispel the suffering of beings, especially in this degenerate age. And the Medicine Buddha Sutra states that during future times, when new diseases appear and are hard to cure, the power of the medicine Buddha will become even stronger. And not only that, but the practice of medicine Buddha may even have the power, to prevent people from dying, or it is said that even the revived people who have already died, that's that powerful. So although other mantras may lose their power during a degenerate times, the medicine Buddha mantra becomes even more effective and powerful. This is especially important to recite during these bad times, he said. So and some diseases can benefit from medicine, but some cannot. In some places, there are hundreds of ill patients, but very few doctors, and there can be little treatment at such times. So in these cases, the medicine Buddha practice can be dedicated to those suffering beings. I mean, I'm not suggesting that you not use medicine and see your doctor for problems, but some problems can be cured with medicine, and but some resist getting better, and that is because of certain karmic causes and conditions, and the purification of that karma is necessary. So we talked about the Vajrayana.
So Lama, for people that are just getting familiar with Vajrayana practice, and still don't have that that complete confidence at first in chanting of medicine Buddha or green tar, Chenrezi, what's the best way to approach the view to those practices in the beginning?
Well, we have to start from the beginning, so there's a reason why we do Nundro, for example, to cultivate our devotion and through prostrations and those kinds of things and purification. I mean, a lot of people don't have the merit, they just have to really, some people, there's a lesser, middling, and a superior beings in the way that some people just have a natural affinity for the practice and for Buddhism. Other people really need to do some purification first, and so you start by reading. You start by attending and doing your meditation. You start by taming your mind. So one usually just does not start with Tantra. That is not how one usually begins. That may be too much in this degenerate time as well. But for Westerners whose minds need to be stilled and quieted, They still are too wild, and they have too many obstacles. So those have to be tamed, and they have to be resolved through, it may be purification exercises, it may be, but to have a teacher is important. Left to our own devices, since beginningless time, we've been wandering in samsara. And unless we have the guidance that we need, and everyone's different. That's why the Buddha taught 84,000 different ways to practice, to meet all of the 84,000 minds and all of the kleshas that go with that. So you have to be skillful in how you bring a person to that level. So that would be that was why the Buddha came. And there'll be different things that will attract different people. I don't think we can make a sweeping generalization for someone who can't do it. You do it like this, but there are basic things. Reading, it starts there. So whether it's Dharma paths or excellent in the beginning, or the one that you're doing, Essence of Buddhism, but different people are going to be attracted even to different books. So one has to begin to learn. We say we hear, we study, and we practice. So you have to start by hearing, and then contemplating what you've heard, and then putting it into practice. And you see that, yes, I can. I don't have to have my knee-jerk response of anger if somebody says something to me. You can create a little space in your mind stream and cultivate patience and loving kindness and compassion. And that just changes everything. So I don't know that I can answer that in a simple say, this is what you do. Everyone is different. There's no two people alike. Everyone has different particular karmic predispositions. There's no one who is the same, never will be, never could be, because we all have a different mind stream. We all have different experiences, and the seeds of those experiences in our mind stream. So those have to be recognized, dealt with, and purified to a certain degree, or else we're just going to keep spinning around, going round and round. That's what samsara means, basically, going round and round without any success. We just have to have the right view. So we look at the Four Noble Truths. We recognize there's suffering. We recognize there's a cause for that suffering. We recognize that there is a way out of the suffering by following the Noble Eightfold Path, for example. And so we begin there. So in these times of great stress and pain and sickness, many rely on the medicine Buddha, meditation, as a remedy for suffering of all kinds. And the Buddha taught that the power of the mind is preeminent. The words medication and meditation are so similar because they come from the same Latin root word, medior, which means to heal or to make whole. So whether you medicate or meditate, the goal is the same. Meditation is a healing activity. So, but until a person knows that, it's they have to come to that realization themselves. That was kind of a long-winded answer to that question, but that brings us back to the importance of the medicine Buddha, actually. And science doesn't contradict, the profound power of the mind. On the contrary, numerous studies support the power of the mind and meditation and mantra healing for everything from migraines to depression to cognitive and mental health and issues and, much more. We know the great power of the mind and its healing capacity. And the recent explosion of literature and science, reports in professional journals has brought to the mainstream Western medicine, this realization. There's been more out about the nature of the mind than ever before. But in addition, the practical research that has been going on in Asian countries such as India, China, and Tibet for thousands of years by great yogis of the past, this knowledge and wisdom has been passed down from the time of the Buddha to us. And this is also a science. And, you know, as I've said many times, I feel like that Buddhism is a mind science. It's a supreme psychology. And, you know, the universities in India where knowledge was kept in the monasteries, these were the centers of wisdom and knowledge. We think we know everything now, and our science is so superior, but and we totally eliminate or ignore the 2,500 years and more of the great yogis of the past, which were wonderful scientists, you know, and they worked on themselves to see the nature of their mind by turning their energy inward, to really recognize the nature of their mind and not be quite so, you know, outward oriented. If we're trying to find peace and happiness outside, you know, that's going to be unsuccessful, to say the least. It doesn't come from anything outside. It's all impermanent and comes and goes. You know, it's empty of anything. So these yogis have a lot to teach us. And the medicine Buddha is a prominent figure, you know, in the Mahayana and Vajrayana Buddhism, and is revered for the ability to heal physical and mental ailments. And this medicine Buddha practice, you know, that involves meditation, visualization, and recitation of mantras, and to evoke the blessing of the medicine Buddha, is a skillful means for uprooting our negative emotions and our kleshas and those things that are really the seat of our suffering. You know, anger and negative emotions are really the root of our suffering. And as you know, the Sanskrit word mantra means mind protection. So the use of mantra helps protect us from all of the negative emotions and mental constructs that keep us from going down the rabbit hole. And so the practice of medicine Buddha, again, is one of those things considered important for its healing function. You know, the primary focus of the medicine Buddha practice is to promote physical and mental health by invoking the blessings of the medicine Buddha. But these are, you know, this is an aspect of our own mind. It's not outside of us. We're developing and cultivating these practices that lead us to our own Buddha nature, which is the ultimate physician. And, you know, the Buddha you know, often compared himself to a physician. And just like when we go to a physician, you know, we have some kind of problem, and the physician diagnoses the problem, gives the diagnosis and the remedy. And, you know, if we are wise, you know, we listen to that and we take the remedy for the desired amount of time to get the desired result. And it's the same thing with what the Buddha taught. You know, we know that we have this particular ignorance, or this, you know, this clinging, this craving, this attachment, which is the seat of our connection, you know, our aggrandizement of our ego, which is takes us down the garden path to the suffering. So he gave us the remedy. He gave us the medicine, but we have to take the medicine. And the main problem is either not starting or not finishing. It's the same thing with the medicine. You've got the prescription, you may have the medicine, but you have to take it, and you've got to take it for the required amount of time. And that's the same thing. So, and the medicine Buddha was considered a manifestation, the compassion of all the Buddhas. And by practicing medicine Buddha meditation, practitioners develop compassion and empathy towards others. And we already said how important that is, to have that compassion and loving kindness, which ultimately leads to wisdom. And the ultimate gift of medicine Buddha is associated with perfection of wisdom, which is considered the vital aspect of Buddhist practice. And by meditating on medicine Buddha, practitioners develop wisdom and insight. You know, that is of great importance to our development on the path. The other thing that medicine Buddha said, and you know why he in his aspirations, is protection. The medicine Buddha practice provides protection against various forms of harm, whether it be physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual, and it's transformative. The practice of medicine Buddha has the power to transform negative karma and lead to spiritual transformation and enlightenment. So it is a further application of shamatha, kama biting, and vipassana, or insight meditation. When we meditate on the form of the medicine Buddha and recite the mantra, we are practicing shamatha. And when we dissolve the visualization and the self into emptiness and realize we are meditating on mere empty appearance, that dissolves into emptiness. When you do the practice, you know you dissolve the medicine Buddha into you, into your heart, and then dissolve into emptiness. So we're meditating on mere emptiness that dissolves, and we are practicing vipassana. That leads to wisdom. We see the empty quality, and this purifies the mind of mental and emotional obscurations, blocking the direct insight into the nature of mind, our Buddha nature. So the focal point of the healing practice is, visualizing this. In the case of medicine Buddha, for example, we visualize him, as you know, as a deep blue and the color of lapis lazuli. He wears Dharma robes of a monk and is seated in the full cross-legged position on a lotus and moon disc throne. His right hand rests on his knee with the palm facing outward in the mudra of granting blessing, holding the stem of a myrobalan plant. Terminalia jabula is its Latin name, and which is praised as the king among all medicines because of its effectiveness in treating mental and physical diseases. And the left hand is resting in the lap, holding a begging bowl filled with medicinal nectar in the mudra representing meditative stability. And he's the Buddha that's in back of me. That's medicine Buddha. And this is the Buddha that was given to me because the person, it was brought back. They had it in the family a long time, and they thought that it should belong in a temple or a shrine room, and it was given to me. And Khenpo Rinpoche blessed it, painted it, cleaned it up, and made this throne. And he put all the little jewels, which are hard to see at a distance like that, but by hand, he had all these little jewels, and you can see it's quite a thing. But that is our central Buddha, is medicine Buddha. And I feel very connected to that Buddha, and I don't think it's an accident that it was given to me. It found its way to me in some way, and that is our central Buddha. And Rinpoche really thought it was spectacular. He really liked the eyes of this Buddha, and he wanted to really bless it, and so he did that. So you'll see tankas, of medicine Buddha, which can depict the Buddha realm known as the Pure Land of Lapis Lazuli, Palace of Beauty. He is seen, again, blue color or lapis lazuli color. And the most distinctive feature of the medicine Buddha is his deep blue lapis color, but you'll also see him sometimes as gold. And Rinpoche thought that this one should be gold colored, but you'll mostly see medicine Buddha as lapis lazuli, which, the stone lapis lazuli has been prized by Asian and European cultures for more than 6,000 years. And traditionally, this stone was used to symbolize that which is pure or rare. And it is said to have strengthening qualities for those who wear it, along with medicinal benefits to boost immunity and lower blood pressure and reduce inflammation, relieve insomnia, depression. There's a whole host of things, benefits in nervous system, respiratory systems, and associated with strength and courage and royalty and wisdom, intellect, truth. There's so many things that we associate with this particular stone of lapis lazuli, and usually depicted as the color of medicine Buddha. And he's usually the patron saint. Medicine Buddha is revered as the source of all healing arts and the patron saint for all physicians. And it is through these teachings that the four medical tantras comprise the basis of traditional Tibetan medicine, TTM, traditional Tibetan medicine. And according to the four tantras, the fundamental cause of every disease really is the three poisons of anger, desire, confusion. And these three poisons lead to imbalances in the elements. And this leads to disturbances in the three humors. These three humors maintain different systems of the body. Phlegm is considered, this is the Tibetan system. In Chinese medicine, slightly different, but it still relates earth and water element, the wind element, air, bile, the fire element, and these are particular constitutional types, and the medicine treats those constitutional types. But treatment of disease and maintenance of health is a matter of bringing the elements of the body, including earth, water, fire, air, into proper balance. And this is accomplished through different progressive types of treatments. If we look at the medicine that he taught, and that is, I say, the source of traditional Tibetan medicine, and it's accomplished through, first involves assessing the person's diet. The second involves the person's behavior and daily activities, and requiring some usually lifestyle changes. And the third intervention, if these two prove ineffective, is to prescribe medicine in the form of herbs or other substances. And if this should fail, we resort to stronger, more direct external forms of therapy, such as massage, cupping, acupuncture, moxibustion. There's a variety of other things, but these types of treatments will not have lasting effects unless they are accompanied by spiritual transformation. So if ignorance and delusion remain fixed, they will give rise to disease and recurring suffering in samsara. And the medicine Buddha is referred to, as I mentioned, as the supreme physician, not only because of his great ability to heal disease, but also because of the cultivation of great compassion and wisdom and the skill to diagnose, treat the root cause of underlying mental and physical disease. So sometimes, as I was mentioning, working with the diet is all you need to do. The person is not either nutritionally deficient or is adding things that are creating a disbalance or disharmony in the elements, or the person's behavior and daily activities are making, are creating imbalances. And if that's not it, then we resort to other herbs or substances, and it can still go stronger, more direct external forms of therapy, such as massage, again, cupping, or acupuncture. Moxibustion is the use of moxa or burning a certain thing over acupoints. It's Artemisia is the herb that's used for that. So there's a variety of things that are taught in the training of physicians. It's a wonderful system of medicine. I had the good fortune of training with Dr. Yeshe Dandan, who was the longtime physician to His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And he was wonderful. And through all of the different aspects of that healing art. Okay, I got a little sidetracked here. Any other questions?
Lama, how does this idea that seeing a Buddha's image, we have pendants for sale, and some people wear them because they have an affinity for a particular Buddha. But when we wear an image of the Buddha, are we bringing benefit to others that may see that image?
Yeah, you are actually. There's a different healing can happen through seeing images or mantras or seed syllables, or so just seeing a Buddha or wearing an amulet of some sort. It can also be helpful. Of course, this is all our mind, and it has to be in harmony with the individual. So that's why so many people have different practices that they're attracted to. And that the one that you do should be the one that you have the most confidence in. So we see liberation through hearing, whether it's mantra, liberation through tasting, and there can be certain herbs that are used. There can be a certain through seeing, so seeing the mantra, hearing the mantra, tasting, as I mentioned, with certain pills and things like that. All these things. So yes, just seeing, and it's wonderful if you can start the day by seeing an image of the Buddha. That is a very powerful tool to begin your mind to see that image. It will project a particular quality to you. And it is something that, if you have faith in it, it is not the image itself, it is our faith, our devotion. There's the story about the man who was a merchant, and he would travel to places, and he had a mother who was sick, and the mother asked him to please bring me a relic of the Buddha in your travels. And he said, yes, I will do that. And he went and came back and forgot that. And she was very distraught. And he went out again and with the same intention to bring something back, but forgot. And it is, this went on for several times. And she said, if you don't bring me something back, I'm just going to kill myself. So he was on his way back, and he forgot again to bring something back to his mother, and he saw a dead dog on the side of the road, and took one of its teeth and wrapped it in a kata, or some nice silk, and brought it back to her and said it was one of the Buddha's teeth. And the story goes that she was so happy, and she placed it on the altar. And her devotion, it was her devotion, of course, and her faith in the Buddha, not in this tooth, but that brought her to liberation, it is said. So no matter what the thing is, if it satisfies that inner kind of a need for a focal point, for a devotion, for faith, and that we have confidence in, just like we say, there are so many different Buddhas, so many different Bodhisattvas that we practice to bring out our own quality, our own Buddha nature. Those are nothing outside of us. We have those same qualities within us. And it's a method, it's a skillful means to bring these qualities out. For someone who is a scientist and a student and wishes to cultivate, excellent intellect, they may just want to do manjushri. For those who wish health and well-being, they may want medicine Buddha. For those who need loving kindness and compassion, which is pretty much everybody, Chenrezi can be the yidam, or that focal point for practice. So it really doesn't matter which one, because all Buddhas, you can practice one and get all of those qualities which exist within us already, but we wish to cultivate the qualities of a bodhisattva, and ultimately the full awakening of a Buddha. And there are many skillful ways that we can do that, but we have to start. Again, the problem is either not starting or not finishing. And so there's lots of different methods that we can use for that. So to answer your question, yes, wearing something that evokes faith and confidence and strength and courage in practice, gives us the devotional impetus to practice, will lead you to the goal. And it's not the thing, it's our own Buddha nature. It's an expression of our own internal quality. It's our own secret Buddha that's in us. We say that there's the outer Lama, there's the inner Lama or teacher, which is you, and then there's the essence or the secret, as sometimes it's said, the secret teacher, which is our essential Buddha nature that is always there, and we can rely on that. But at first, we sometimes need the outer manifestation to begin. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Other questions or comments? I can ramble on, but
No, it's all good.
Could you talk more about Amitabha?
yes, we all really would like to be reborn in his pure land of Dewa Chen or Sukhavati, and that is a special pure realm. And actually, if you do the medicine Buddha practice, it will say, "May I be reborn in Sukhavati or Dewa Chen." Do you see that in the medicine Buddha practice? It is there. So, our practice should take us, to a outside. When we leave this impure realm, this wandering in samsara, we make the aspiration, and I really want to put a plug in for aspiration prayers. There is the aspiration prayer for excellent conduct. There's the aspiration prayer for rebirth in Dewa Chen. There's a number of so-called aspiration prayers, and I definitely recommend, and you can even find them online, but you can certainly go to the Namse Banzo bookstore associated with KTD, and just search for the aspiration prayers. They're not necessarily long, but they help us generate that aspiration. Aspiration is very important. So aspiration to be born in Dewa Chen, you can have it's a very excellent prayer that describes the pure land of Dewa Chen, describes how one gets there, what is needed, which is basically to have confidence in Amitabha, to chant his mantra, Om Amideva Hri, and there's a whole school, the Pure Land school, that devotes themselves to the practice of Amitabha. So he is a Buddha, the Buddha of infinite light. Again, I would suggest Googling Amitabha and to consider the aspiration prayer for rebirth in Amitabha's Pure Land. Dewa Chen is the Tibetan, and Sukhavati is the Sanskrit word for that Pure Land. It describes it in detail, and his teaching on how one arrives there. And so if one has confidence in Amitabha, you are assured to be reborn there if you follow the specific kinds of preliminaries. But it's basically having confidence in him. what makes you ask the question?
I just wanted to know, more about the significance and the meaning behind, that Buddha, I guess, in specific.
Each of the Buddhas have their own pure realm. Amitabha's realm we talked about, and each of the Buddhas that we talked about, the 5 Buddha families, they also have their pure realms. There are many Buddhas and there are many pure realms, but it is the one that we focus our mind on at the time of death. And that is the important thing. At the time of death is a very powerful time. And as we go through the bardo, we don't want to go dragging our feet and, fearfully, and we want to be focused. We want to really have our minds at ease. And so studying the Bardo teachings is very important. And I think you've been doing some of that at KTC. And you will, that is an important, another important study. We're all getting older. And of course, none of us, it doesn't even matter how old you are, none of us know how long we have on this this planet. You could be an infant, you could be middle-aged, you could be old, but the time of our death is not known. And to be prepared and fearless in that, and practicing what you're doing right now to remove our obstacles and our delusions, and to be able to face the bardo. And we'll have many different experiences in the bardo, which means in between state. And there are many in between states. Dreaming is this is the bardo of this life that we consider. This is a bardo. This life, and there'd be the bardo of death, which is the dying process. And there'll be the bardo of the clear light, or we have the opportunity to go to the pure realm if we can recognize this pure lucid state of the mind. But there will be a number of things when we no longer have this body, which somewhat limits us, our perceptions. We can only see so many things. We can only hear so many decibels, or so many. Our range of hearing is not the same as animals, and our sight is not the same as some other creatures. But it's very limited, actually. But when we die, we are. It says we're 9 or 10 times more intelligent. We can understand things better. We don't often. There's a time in between that we might not even know we're dead, because we're so attached to this particular form. And so anyway, the bardo of becoming is the place that is one of the bardos before we take rebirth. If we miss the time of seeing the lucid, clear light of that leads to the Pure Land, we want to escape into to find another body, to find another place to take rebirth. And we're attracted to that situation based on causes and conditions. If we haven't purified our mind, we're going to be led to a particular rebirth situation. And it can be in one of 6 realms. We talk about 6 realms. Anyway, that's a whole nother the study when we talk about death and dying. But when I think of Amitabha, I think about his Pure Land, and having the aspiration to achieve that realization in Dewa Chen. And it's talked about, there are different births. There's water birth. There's birth, the womb birth. There's a variety of ways that a being can be born. This is birth as a lotus. You'll sometimes see Guru Rinpoche, lotus born. So you will be born in a lotus in Dewa Chen. And if everything goes according to plan, your a lotus will. And this may seem very, something out of Star Wars or Star Trek or something, but it is in the sutras like this. And those who know the nature of the mind in its entirety and the scope of reality will tell you that there's more to this reality than just this life. And there's more, things do not end at our death. It is, we continue on, our mind stream continues, and what's in our mind stream directs the next event. So we want to, we should be thinking about that process of death and dying and be prepared for it. So the study, that'll be another thing that we can talk about, is the Bardo and the those how we prepare for that. I don't know if I answered the question sufficiently, but I pointed you in a direction that I think would be good to pursue.
And Lama, we have another question in the chat here. For a beginner, is it possible to just focus on the first 4 paramitas for a while?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That would be time well spent. So the paramitas, it's the way of the bodhisattva. This is the way that we attain a perfect Buddhahood. This is the way the bodhisattvas, there are different levels, of bodhisattvas. We usually say 10 levels. That they progress, the first level being the joyous, and we progress along that path until the 10th level bodhisattva and then Buddhahood. So yes, that would be wonderful to do that. It's not so easy. I mean, just, generosity, the first, paramita, needless to say, the other, it is a progress, it is a progressive, but to practice real generosity, without thinking about any return, or without thinking about, just practicing generosity, yeah, is a big one. You could spend some time doing that, but then moral, ethical, life and patience, that's yes, is the answer to that question. Again, the teachings of the Buddha are so vast. There's so much. It can really seem overwhelming. But it is good to just think, oh, even just one of them, just starting with generosity, how to be generous to oneself and others. We often, everything is a cost-benefit analysis. If I give this, what's going to happen to me? If it's going to be too much, it's going to be too little. Is it? You give, without even thinking about it, about what it's going to do for you. Is it going to make you more, give you more credibility in the eyes of others, be revered, as you don't do it for that reason. The gift, the giver, the person given, it's done with total emptiness and with total disregard to result. And that is not so easy. Usually we have our underlying kind of reasons why we might go, if I do this, then they'll do this for me. Or we have an underlying kind of a reason for doing it. And being generous is a wonderful quality, but the motivation is more important. And it's not so much what you give, it's the motivation with which you give it. So just sticking with the first of the paramitas, the virtues, which is generosity, it starts there. And just to really see how you deal with the giving or generosity. to one's. Often we're not very generous with ourselves either. We're very critical and stingy, and but certainly with others, we're even more so. Because we feel like we're going to lose something or we're not going to have enough, and that's the attitude that leads you to rebirth in different realms. So again, a roundabout answer to that question. Hope it answered your question.
Lama, if I could circle back a little bit to the Buddha Amitabha. I've often heard it described as, I don't want to use the word easier, but one of the Buddha realms that's more attainable to reach within this or after this lifetime. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, it's because of the aspirations that, just like the aspirations that Medicine Buddha made, and you can see those aspirations, in Trungpa Rinpoche's book, Medicine Buddha Teachings. He lists the 12 aspirations that the Medicine Buddha did. In the same way, Buddha Amitabha made aspirations that made it possible for anyone. Some of these pure realms, it requires a real, you have to be at a higher level to attain that pure realm. But Amitabha's realm, as I was saying, it can be attained through devotion and through the wish to be reborn there. So it is true that it is easier to be reborn in Dewa Chin than any other pure realm. So that is true, but we do have to know what those requirements are, and that's why I was recommending that take a look at the aspiration to be reborn in Dewa Chin.
Thank you, Lama.
Yeah, it's important. That would be a good thing to take a look at. He's often depicted, as also known as Amida Buddha, and is a central figure in what I mentioned, the Pure Land Buddhism, which is a major branch of Mahayana Buddhism. And according to the Pure Land teachings, Amitabha Buddha presides over the Western Pure Land, a heavenly realm of bliss and enlightenment, which is accessible to those who sincerely call upon his name, and aspire to be reborn there, as I mentioned. He's often depicted, as a benevolent and compassionate figure who has made a vow to help all sentient beings achieve enlightenment. And devotees of the Pure Land Buddhism place their faith in Amitabha's vow and recite his name. And that is their practice, basically, is chanting Amitabha's name to keep that in their mind stream as a form of meditation and spiritual practice. And with that aspiration of being reborn in his pure land after death. And Amitabha's Buddha's teachings emphasize the power of faith, and devotion, and the recitation of his name as a means to attain rebirth in his pure land and ultimately achieve enlightenment. And there's so many qualities to that. I mean, you can go to other pure realms. I mean, again, you can see all of the qualities of this pure land. And within the Pure Land Buddhism, devotion to Amitabha is a central aspect of religious practice, for many. It is particularly in China, the Pure Land school is very large. All right, I think we probably exhausted our time for today. Is there any questions that I I didn't answer or that are remain out there? Would pretty much.
I think we've got all the questions in the chat. Does anyone have, Siri, go ahead.
Oh, no, I didn't have any questions. I just wanted to say thank you very much. Always informative and inspirational as always.
Good, thank you. Well, practice, practice, and and continue. You know, to come to the center, support the center, and study. You know, as we said, the important thing is to hear the Dharma, and then to study the Dharma and to practice the Dharma. So we'll dedicate the merit of our coming together for the benefit of all sentient beings and their ultimate enlightenment. And at this time, you know, for the peoples and nations of this earth, may not even the names disease and war and famine and suffering be heard. Rather, may pure conduct and merit and wealth and prosperity increase, and may supreme good fortune and well-being always arise in the minds of beings. I thank you all very much. I look forward to seeing you next month. And I'll remind you, if you haven't seen, that they're starting the last Wednesday, there's a teaching, a 10-week teaching, or maybe it's 8-week teaching, 8 or 10, that had started with the Khenpo Tenkyang, who is one of the resident Lama Khenpos at KTD. He started with meditation, and they'll be on Wednesday, 8 o'clock to 9:30. If you haven't seen it, you can talk to Mike about that. He has all that information and can send it to you. And I will be doing, I just found out today, I was going to be doing the 4th of those sessions on the 3 different teachings of the Buddha, the 3 yanas. But I was asked to do an extra teaching. So I will be doing the 3rd and 4th teachings in this series on the life of the Buddha, the 4 Noble Truths, and then the 4th one on the 3 yanas, which is a nice segue. You know, I'll start with the first of the yanas, which is the Hinayana, and then we'll go to the Mahayana in more detail, and then the Vajrayana. So if you can, if you're interested in developing a little bit more understanding about Buddhism, this is a beginning class, and this will be a graduated class in terms of depth of study. This is the beginning one. There'll be a more intermediate one and a more advanced one after we finish this one. And this teaching series. So if you can attend, maybe I will see you there. So good night. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Lama. And I would just like to make a few brief announcements. We have visiting Lama Losang January, who will be visiting on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of February here in KTC Jax. We will have a public talk titled Using Life's Manure for Spiritual Growth. That'll be Friday night at 7 p.m. And then he'll be teaching a weekend workshop on emotional healing here at the center. He'll also be joining us for Buddhism Basics that week as well. And then he'll continue on to Gainesville KTC to teach there throughout the weekend, the following weekend, which should be Losar for the new year. So several opportunities to spend some time and learn from Lama Yeshe as he comes to visit us here in Florida.
Yes, thank you for reminding everyone of that. Anything else?
And that's all I have, Lama.
All right. Thank you all again very much. I really appreciate having the opportunity to teach the Dharma, and I really appreciate you being here and your interest. So thank you again, and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lama.
Thank you, Lama Losang.
Thank you, Lama Losang. Stay well, all.
You
Yes.
too.
Thank you.